Hello, welcome back to the Unravel Collective. My name's Yvonne. I channel the Ninth Dimension Arcturian Council, and usually every Saturday I have some channeled guidance to share with you from the Arcturians. But today I have a special treat. I invited Daniel Scranton um, for a little chat, for a little Zoom chat. We met on Zoom and it was so much fun, and he is so sweet. I always felt that Daniel was a kindred spirit, and he is the most kind, most humble, sweetest friend that I have had through this journey. He actually reached out to me after seeing my interview on Next Level Soul, which I thought was just so cool. I was so excited, and we have been friends ever since, DMing each other. And of course, he offers me encouragement and guidance as well on this journey that I am on, um, of channeling and sharing that on YouTube. So I assume that if you like watching me and you like channeled guidance from the Arcturians, that you are a fan of Daniel's. So I'm so excited to bring this to you today. This is just a chat, two channelers talking about channeling and getting to know each other better. So I hope you enjoy our chat, and I will see you next week with some channeled guidance from the Arcturians. It's so nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you. I just watched your video again last night.
Oh boy.
Now, it
Embarrassing, but okay.
was great. Do you want to just like officially start and say, "Hi everyone, I have Daniel Scranton here. We're gonna talk."
I guess so. Do you want to take the lead? I don't know. I feel like I'm so nervous.
Hi everyone, this is Daniel Scranton, and I'm here with my lovely friend Yvonne Constancio, and we're going to talk about channeling Arcturians today because we both channel Arcturians, and we met by Next Level Soul, both being guests on there. And I saw her video first, and then I think I had already been planned to be on the show, but I reached out to her and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I know your work." And so we've been connecting ever since. And she's like a sister to me. And we just wanted to have a conversation about what we do and how it happened and everything, and then share it with you guys too. So,
Yeah. And
hi.
hi. And I'm so excited about this because like I mentioned to you earlier, I want to have a conversation that's just easy and um like if we weren't filming this, just to talk about how it all happened for us. And I have some questions for you about experiences around channeling, and just because I'm newer at this, I'm fairly new. Um, it started in June of 2020 for me, totally unexpectedly. Um,
Yeah, right
so
after the pandemic started, you started channeling.
I'm sorry, what'd you
It
say?
was after the pandemic started because that was like March. They all the
Yeah,
lockdowns and stuff started in March in the US. So yeah,
yeah, yeah. Interesting time. Uh,
yeah,
but yeah, I'm just curious to get to know you better,
yeah.
um, and just ask each other questions.
Okay, I'll start.
Mm.
In your interview with Alex, I remember you saying you were hearing a voice in the middle of the night during that magic 2 hour period between 3 and 5. You'd get awakened from a sleep, and then they'd start talking to you in your mind's ear.
Yeah.
And I'm curious how you went from that to speaking out loud for them.
So, yeah, so there was something that happened prior to the voices waking me up at night. Um, I had, well, during the pandemic, I had so much more time for meditation. So I was doing meditation every day, and also had the impulse for some reason to be outside doing it, facing the sun with my feet in the grass.
Oh,
So that was some sort of message to meditate that way. And because we were on lockdown, I mean, I had all the time in the world to explore my messages, right? And to listen. So I would say in June, I started slowly going back to work, opening the office. I'm an acupuncturist and energy worker, so we had totally
oh,
shut down and
mhm,
started coming back. And in between clients, here I was again. I was like, "Oh, my meditation practice. I don't want to lose that now that I'm going back to work." So, in between clients, I would do meditation. And it was there during one of those meditations at work that I started feeling the need for a voice to come through.
right.
Um, and that was the first time where I was like, okay, well, let's just see what happens if I let this flow. Um, and I don't know who that being was. I still don't know who it was that was directing me or coming through. Um, That was really funny, that first sort of experience with channeling because the voice was very long and drawn out and slurred,
Oh,
and it took, like, 2 or 3 times for us to sync up to where it was just, like, speaking normally. Um, but they're the ones that instructed me to learn about the Akashic records, which I didn't really know anything about at that time. So soon after that is when the voices started waking me up. Um,
okay.
yeah,
Oh,
and like I said with Alex or on the Kevin Moore show, I can't remember, but I thought it was just my own mind sort of just going and going and
mm,
um and then it was just the third night I was like this doesn't feel like it's my mind. Um and so I talked back to it and it gave me answers or it had a conversation with me. But the third night was when they said, "Get up and go record your first message." They wanted me they kind of instructed me to get up, and I voice recorded it on my iPhone. So I went to the living room and
oh,
recorded that first transmission, um, from the dark in my living room, and that's still up on my Instagram account on the highlights. Like, that's just kinda like, I don't know, a very special transmission for me because it was the
mhm,
first one.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't count the ones in your, acupuncturist office as the first one because they were so,
I
like, hard to kind of get anything out, like, it was more like, parts of words or sentences, or how would you describe that?
it was yeah, I would say it was parts. It was just very slow. It was very slow to come out. Um, but what's interesting is that I don't know if you experienced this with channeling, but you know how you you're in the middle of it, but and you can grasp the whole concept of what's about to be shared,
Yeah,
but it still has to be sort of like
yeah, yeah,
translated into words and like it's going to be articulated, but you already got it. You already got the knowing of it. It's just
yeah,
like now we have to articulate that. So it
yeah,
kind of felt like that. It kind of felt like, okay, I know what's being received, but the words coming out is so slow.
yeah,
And like I said, I think it was just a syncing up and alignment for me. Um, and again, like I don't know if that was the Arcturians or if it was someone else. I almost feel like it was someone else, but I'm
yeah.
not sure who. Um,
I've heard
but
Bashar say that our higher selves and maybe spirit guides or some, members of our team are always the ones we're channeling first,
mm,
but they're always like kind of leading us towards the group or the being that will actually be channeling. That they
Okay.
have to kind of like prep us for that, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, and then they also, directed me towards the Akashic records, which was also the form of channeling once I went in that direction too. Um, I can't remember now what came first. I think it was the Arcturians came first, and then the Akashic records. As far as actually, I don't know. I don't know if I started playing with the Akashic records before the Arcturians. I think anyway. I'm really bad with remembering
Yeah.
timelines of how things happen. Um,
And
so
how do you access the Akashic records? What's that like for you?
I say the opening prayer that I learned in Linda Howe's book, and for some reason, it just came very easily to me. I just say the prayer. I take a moment, I close my eyes, I take a moment to tap in. And just like with the Arcturians, um, when I close my eyes, there's just the sensation of just like a quick settling inside my body that's very calm. Um, it just feels like open.
Mhm.
I don't know how to explain it except that it's just kind of like a thing that just goes, okay,
Mm,
now I know that we're in. And also, when I'm with the Arcturians, now I know that they've arrived and they're here.
mhm.
And I know for you, you do the sounds and the tonal work, right? Prior to kind of or while you're tapping in.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's like so I start channeling in late 2010 and I'm channeling like just automatic. I don't even remember like you. I don't remember anything being said though prior to them saying we are here for you because that's what the creators always say at the beginning. We are here for you. And then I went through this period where initially, like, you just don't trust it. You just don't think like that it's real, that I'm actually doing it, that I'm not forcing this or making it up or all that stuff that like almost every person who channels goes through.
Right.
So I was going through that, but I was still doing channeling for people. So what I would wind up doing is I would wind up doing a lot before the "We Are Here for You" would come, and the messages prior to "We Are Here for You" coming were sing and ring and sing and ring and sing and ring and sing. And I would just repeat those words over and over and over. And sometimes it would literally be 10 minutes of me
Wow.
just doing that before they go, "We are here for you." And so I realized too that like it was my reluctance to doing it and
Mm,
my like not wanting it to be fake or made up that kept the preamble so long to getting to the channeling. And then
mm,
finally I said, maybe I should go take voice lessons somewhere. Like, and I found this teacher who I still am friends with, and we're going to work together at some point next year. Her name is Kimberly, and her studio in Santa Monica, California was called Singing for Your Soul. And I loved going to Santa Monica anyway from I was living in Long Beach. So I would go up and I'd take my lesson with her and then I'd go to a raw food restaurant somewhere. And I just was like I was having so much fun with it because I always wanted to be a singer, from the time I was a kid. I would get up in front of audiences and sing at talent shows and in my music class and at camp, like anywhere I could, I would get up in front of people and sing. And then at some point that just went away. I took drum lessons for a while, but and then I just dropped all of it, and I wasn't doing anything by like fifth grade. But I just it was like I needed to do that. I guess I needed to open up my throat chakra and start expressing in a different way. And when I would sing, I would always sing with my eyes closed, and my hands would be going like this the whole time, like It's like, and it was so funny. And then one day, my coach, my vocal coach, said, "Well, are you interested in changing up our warm up routine?" So in between that, so there's a little that happens in between that. In between that, there I go from sing and ring ring and sing, which once I got the point, they stopped saying it, and then I start channeling light language. So once I started to channel light language, then light language would come in before the "We Are Here for You," and then we start channeling tones. Me and Kimberly, not channeling. We start doing this toning exercise. It's a chakra toning exercise. You start at the root and you work your way up to the crown and do three for each chakra.
Mm.
And so we're doing that with each other in the studio, and the sound is reverberating off itself and making this wobble sound. And like it's the coolest experience. I feel so good after I do it. And then I'm also learning from Wendy Kennedy's Pleiadians about tones and sounds and how powerful they are. And I want to like learn from her how to do overtoning and throat singing and all the stuff that I do now. But she didn't know how to teach me. So the next thing that happens is instead of doing light language, the creators come through with these overtones at the beginning of every channeling. And they're totally channeled and they're moving my mouth and my tongue and everything to make them. And I'm like, oh my God. And because every time I would just be like, every time I wanted to channel, all I had to do was go like, okay, I'm channeling now. And initially, before the words came, it was just like the energy was there, but it was moving my face and my mouth and my head and neck were just like moving around,
Yeah.
but nothing was coming out. And then, like you, I started making phonetic sounds first. So I channeled p p p ch 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 t t t, and then I eventually said, "We are here for you." When I said "We are here for you" the first time, I was like, "Oh, that wasn't me." Like I knew it
Yeah.
wasn't me, but I also knew that like you said, everything that came after that was like me getting the energy. I didn't really know it at the time. I wouldn't have been able to explain it like I can now. But now I know the reason it feels made up for all of us is
Mm.
because we have to get that energy and translate it. And when you're conscious, you know that you're translating it. So
Right.
you know that it's like the energy's there, but you're still the one giving the energy the words that you're giving it. And
Mhm.
so it feels often like, well, some things feel more automatic than other things to me that I say, but then other times it really does feel like, well, I'm choosing this word over that word or something.
Mhm. Yeah, I get that. I get that totally. And so one of my questions for you was, um, do you feel that there is an aspect or a part of you that is blended with the transmission? Because I I totally understand what you're saying when you say that, so now we have to sort of come together um um as one, to articulate the message. And because I'm dyslexic, I oftentimes will know what they want to share, but if it's something like, let's say they want to say amnesia, I'm gonna fight
Oh,
to not say insomnia, even though it's not
oh,
the right
yeah.
word. But so I have to pause and be like, that's not the word. What's the word? What's the word? I know what they want to say, and I can't say it because my brain is all like,
Yeah. And
so
I
that,
can think of examples of me doing that too. Like I remember one transmission, I used the word commiserate, and then I had a couple of people contacting me and saying like, "Well, commiserate usually means like they're talking about it's more like gossip, or they're talking like they're talking in kind of a negative way about coming together and say and that's not what was meant." So I got word wrong because that
Yeah.
was my interpretation of what the word meant. It just meant like coming together and having a conversation about something. And then another time I channeled the word monumentous, which is a word, and it's actually in the book that I just published, Ascension, the Fifth Dimension, Volume 5, because the woman that I have edit them for like, mistakes and stuff, she left it in there even though it's not a word. And and I knew it wasn't a word, but I also have a guy who he um he checks every transmission that I transcribe to make sure it matches 100% with the audio from YouTube, and he's really good about every day like sending me what mistakes I made and then I change them on the website. But I do check my work. Like I
Yeah.
transcribe and then I listen back, but I still miss certain things.
Yeah.
'Cause your mind kind of like even when you're reading something, your mind can fill in like an of when you
Yeah.
didn't actually put it on the page or something.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's tricky. It's like I think people think channeling is either an exact science or it's like they're just speaking through you, but really they don't speak and they don't have language where they
Right.
are. So, and they certainly, if they had language, wouldn't be speaking English.
Right.
So, channelers' vocabulary is necessary and their understanding of English language and how to I always know too that this is going to be transcribed. So the way that I say it has to be a complete sentence because it's not only is it going to be transcribed, but eventually it'll be published in a book probably.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it has to read correctly grammatically.
Yeah. Yeah. There have been times where, yes, when I've put a transmission on my website as well, I'm like, oh, this just wasn't a grammatically correct sentence the way they said this. I'll just put dot dot dot. You know?
There you go.
Yeah. Um, so yeah. Um, there was something that came up when you were just speaking. Now I can't remember. I wanted to ask you something, but can't remember
But
what.
I had a question for you.
Okay.
So you were raised Catholic like me, and you're in the South, which is even more Christian than the Northeast where I was raised. So you start doing energy work and acupuncture. Was that what? How did your spiritual awakening come to be from being a good little Catholic girl?
Well, I mean, yes, I have always been a good little girl, but I don't think it was so much about my Catholicism or being raised Catholic. It's just uh, part of it's just who I am. As never wanting to rock the boat, never wanting to, cause trouble or conflict, never wanting to be in the way. Um, so part one of the things that this has really brought me is the um healing of healing of speaking up and expressing myself and showing up and not being afraid to present who I am. And
Mm,
because for so long in my life I was just very quiet, shy, and reserved, and didn't speak up, didn't give my strong opinion about anything, didn't, like I said, just tried to be in the background, just tried to be like um, someone that wasn't in the way. For
wow.
whatever reason, I learned that one of my wounds is, or the thing that goes in my head a lot is like, you don't matter,
Mm,
so this has really helped me
yeah.
to come home to myself
Mm,
and have a confidence within myself and to just be in the world in a way that I feel is contributing in a positive
mhm.
way. Um, but what was your question? Oh, the
Your awakening,
my
was
awakening.
it
So
gradual?
yeah, I feel like my whole
Fast?
life has
Yeah.
been an awakening. And
Yeah.
to be honest with you, I've always felt a little out of place here. I've always felt like I could see things that no one else could see. I could feel what no one else could feel was happening in the room or with a person, or um kind of see the greater, bigger picture. Like, why are people so um focused on the I don't know, the ego, I guess, and ego behaviors, and why are we hurting each other? Why are you saying that? Because I can see, because you're in pain, and
Mm,
this happened, and that's been my whole life, even as a little girl. Just being very forgiving and compassionate for people who are unconsciously behaving in ways that cause pain or harm because they were in pain.
mm,
Um, but I will say that I again, because I didn't share those things, I just kept them to myself. I never felt like I quite fit in with anybody. Um, Very few, like there's been a handful of people in my life that I felt like I could be completely 100% myself. And always been really sensitive. And I think that since this has happened, I feel more at home in my human body than I ever have. Whereas
mm.
before, I felt like, "Ah, why am I here? I think this was a mistake. I don't think I'm supposed to be here." I would always just imagine myself as a tiny little light. And I was just like, man, I just want to be that light again. Like I feel so heavy in this body. It is so dense. It's so heavy. I don't like being here. It's really hard. I don't understand anybody or why they behave the way they behave. I don't like feeling fear and anxiety, you know. And then when the Arcturians contacted me and I started channeling, that's when I finally felt at home, which is funny because I had always kind of wanted an escape from here. And
Mm,
now I feel like, no, I'm here. And this is a
yeah,
beautiful place to be. And my human body is a beautiful vessel. And it's so powerful. I have so much more reverence for it now and my experience here now than I ever have before. Like it kind of did the complete opposite of, instead of wanting to escape, I've wanted to stay really grounded here now.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. But there was no change, like you didn't discover any spiritual teacher or teaching or any mystical, magical experience that made you go, "Oh, we're all God, we're all one, we're all love." Like those, to me, those are like the three components to being awake, you know?
Yeah, I think that the first time, one of the first books that I read that made me feel like that was The Tao of Pooh.
I remember that book.
Yeah, I read that book and I was like, "Oh, everything I think is right here in this book." Like I said, I can kind of already had this way of being and this way of thinking, but I didn't know, you know, I didn't feel like I fit in anywhere with that kind of thinking. So when I read this book for the first time, and I think I was like 23 when I read that book, maybe 22. I was like, oh, so I'm not crazy. I'm not alone in this. This is a way of life that other people see and know and breathe and be. Um, and so I finally felt like, okay, this book is me. This is what I've always known, and here it is in words. So, yeah, and then over time, of course, yeah, there were people that helped with helping um, develop more of a understanding and structure around all of that. Like Eckhart Tolle, I was a big fan of. Um, Gosh, I don't know who else. I'm a big fan of Dr. Joe Dispenza right now. Yeah.
Yeah,
Which is also, I think was in November and December of 2019, I did his online intensive, and that was, I think, 9 weeks of like meditation. So I think that was another thing that led me to the channeling, opening me up in that way.
yeah.
Yeah.
Meditation is so important. I think it really, like I remember waking up and being awakened by Deepak Chopra and his teachings, and
Yeah.
kind of eventually just coming to the conclusion, like, well, all this stuff is so great and interesting and real, and it sounds really true, but like, what do I do with it? And I remember coming always back to the answer of like, well, all you can really do is meditate. Like that's what we can do as spiritually awake people, is to have that time of quieting the mind and being aware of like what's going on inside of us, and feeling for that, and sort of letting everything process through in the meditation, which I think is different than I've heard so many people lately talking about meditation on these YouTube channels like Alex's, where they'll say, everybody thinks that meditation is about not thinking,
Hmm.
but really, the thinking is a part of it, and you have to like let it be a part of it.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you think, I'm not doing it, I'm doing it wrong, I'm bad at this. But if instead you recognize like, okay, there's going to be thoughts, and you just have to accept that. Like, to
Hmm.
go from thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking to say, okay, now for 15 minutes I'm going to stop thinking, and then
Yeah.
I'll go back to it, like as soon as I'm done, is a little bit it's a little bit like asking yourself to do too much.
Yeah.
So um, but typically, I think it's through that same meditative practice that channeling begins to happen. Usually it's not just completely out of the blue for somebody. I think the woman who channeled A Course in Miracles might be an exception to that. Um, Jane Roberts, the channeler of Seth, was like writing poetry when she first made contact with Seth. But for most people, it involves like this, and I always teach people too when I'm teaching channeling, go outside, like do it outside of your house, get away from it all, because the it in that sentence, get away from it all, are, all those thoughts and all those thought forms in your house are still there.
Yeah.
They don't just dissipate and go move into like nothingness. They still hang out in that space. So as you get out where there's no people and there's no thoughts around, there's no thought forms. And that's why, you get into a body of water and it does that for you. That water like insulates you from all those thoughts. Or you just go sit under a tree, and now you've got the support of the earth and the tree, and you're also away from all the thoughts. So that's one of those things you did that was quite intuitive, and I've had moments like that too, where I didn't know what I was doing, but I was doing the right thing anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's super important for people to just follow those little inklings, those little nudges, those little messages and movements or impulses of like, I don't know why, but I feel like doing this. I don't know why. It doesn't make any sense, but I'm gonna go do it.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I don't, and that's something too. I think for me is like I don't have to know the answers. I don't have to know how or why something is working or why. I don't know how I channel. I don't know how I do it, um, and that's okay with me. I don't
Yeah,
have
yeah.
to know.
And you could just, if you really want to channel, you could just say like, well, I'm just going to start a meditation practice and do it every day and see what happens. And if something happens, then I guess I was meant to channel something,
Yeah,
because I was meditating for over 10 years, I would say, on a regular basis. Like, I would say if I missed a day, it was very rare for me to miss a day of meditation. And that was just so I would feel normal. Like, that was not to achieve anything. I wasn't trying to get to samadhi or to channel or anything. I was just trying to like feel like I had enough energy to get through the day, you know?
Yeah. So channeling was never something that you were interested in doing or thought you would end up doing?
No, because I thought I was the person who had all the questions. So, like,
Yeah.
why would I be the person doing the channeling when I liked going and sitting in the hot seat with Esther and Abraham and asking the profound question to bring something else out that they weren't going to normally talk about?
Ah.
No, and then my ex-wife, the woman like when she and I split up, then it was like 5 months later I was channeling. Like there was something that I needed, like I needed to get free myself in a lot of ways. And also like speak up and say like I don't think this is working. I don't think we're compatible. Like that was too, obviously something I thought all the time but never said, and then I finally
Mhm.
said it, and then we split up, and then but she was the one that I thought would be the more likely candidate to channel because she wasn't thinking about this stuff all the time, and she wasn't even interested in channeling. Like I think with Esther that was the case. Like Esther was just happy to like live her life and have her husband Jerry, and like, and look for fun opportunities. But Jerry had all these questions, and because he was the great questioner, then she became the channeler. So I kind of thought that might happen with me and my ex-wife. And
Oh.
and then then yeah, I like, so I'm the huge channeling enthusiast from like 2003 to 2010. So like 7 years of being reading as many books that are channeled and going to as many workshops and having even an in-person session with Bashar where I went to Daryl's house and
Nice.
had him there. And so I was so into it, but I never thought, oh, I'll do this someday, because it wasn't back then. It wasn't like everybody's doing it like it is now. Now it seems like so many, but of course also YouTube has created more awareness because there were people obviously channeling that you just didn't know about.
Right.
You don't hear about people who've been channeling for 40 years when, they started in the 80s, so there wasn't the same,
Right.
exposure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually was scared of channeling, so it was definitely not something that I thought I would end up doing.
What was your introduction to it? Who did you
My
find?
Um, well, the very first time my partner was very a big fan of Lee Harris.
Uh,
So yeah, so we're in Nashville. I'd never heard of Lee Harris before her. This was in 2013, I think. Um, and we're in Nashville and he was coming to Asheville, which is about 4 hours away. So she really wanted to go since he was going to be that close. So we drove to Asheville, we stayed there, went to the hotel, that he was doing his thing in, his channeling. Um, I was like, I closed my eyes when he said he was about to start channeling because I didn't know what was about to happen. I didn't know if it was going to be like weird moves or weird faces or like sounds or and because I'm so spooked out so easily. So I closed my eyes. And then when he started talking, and my partner was like, "It's fine, he's fine. He's just got
yeah.
his eyes closed. Like, no, it's not scary." And so I was like, "Okay." And so I opened my eyes. That was my first introduction to channeling. Um,
Wow.
yeah, and then after that, so at my center, Nashville Center for Alternative Therapy, we used to do workshops and classes, and so we invited a channeler who channeled Archangel Michael, and he came to do that. And I was scared. So when he was about to do his switch into channeling, I went into the hallway because I was like, I don't want to be here. I'm so scared. Until I heard him start talking and channeling, and he did make some scary sounds. So I was glad I was in the hallway. And then I came out. But no, I certainly never expected to be doing this.
Do you think
No.
your partner's next now? You think she'll do it?
I don't think so. I mean, she doesn't have seem to have any interest in doing it at all, and sometimes, most of the time, doesn't even listen to my transmissions.
But does she run the center with you?
She does, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
she does some sort of alternative, healing thing?
She is an Enneagram coach and an
Okay,
adult chair coach, inner child coach, and
yeah.
she does massage therapy and energy work. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because my wife also, like, she doesn't she never has asked me to channel for her in 7
No.
years.
Yeah.
Never asked
No. Neither is
which
Ramona.
is the perfect response. Like, you
Mhm.
don't want to be in a relationship with someone who's a fan of your work. Like, that's that's no that's not good. I had that marriage. That was my 2nd marriage.
Oh.
Well, that's not how we met. We met on an Abraham cruise, but she wanted me to channel for her some nights and then would like come to my workshops and
Mm,
ask questions, and like sometimes the questions were like way too personal and about our relationship, and I was like thinking, what are you doing in
yeah.
front of all these people? Um, but one thing I wanted to say, which is so funny, is that I think I told you this in a direct message, but I used to fly to Nashville from LA, and I had my friends Ann and Kai who were in a relationship together, and one used to be a country music songwriter for Barbara Mandrell, and the
Nice.
other one a professor at Vanderbilt, and I think she still is. And we would drive with this other lady, Laura, and we would drive from Nashville to Asheville and go see Abraham at the Biltmore. And we must
Oh,
have done
wow.
4 times. Yeah, like, so I know exactly that trek you're talking
No,
about.
yeah. Yeah. Um, let's see. I'm gonna see what other questions I have for you. I wrote some down.
Why let me ask you a question. Why the Unravel Collective? What's that about?
Oh, well, I was just trying to come up with a name to sort of describe what what my intention was behind, what I was doing. So when I first came up with that name, it was actually for movement because I
Mm,
used to be a yoga instructor and I was also very much into intuitive movement and somatic practices. And so for me, the Unravel Collective was unraveling stuck emotion or unraveling blockages in the body through movement.
mm,
And collective just being that we're all in this together as a collective. Um,
oh,
but then the channeling started, and my Instagram went more in that direction. And it still kind of fit. I was like, well, we are kind of unraveling the human condition here so that we can all elevate and um, expand our consciousness and evolve. And so I just kind of kept it.
think maybe you'll channel others after? Like, you think you'll continue to reach out to others?
Um, I don't know, because that would definitely be a choice that I make, right? That I call out or reach
Yeah.
out or invite.
Sometimes yeah, sometimes it's for me, it's just happened. Like,
Okay.
Archangel Michael just came one day, like, as I was at a workshop where somebody else was channeling Archangel Michael, and I felt the
Okay.
presence, felt like, "Oh, I'm gonna do this too," and then like I do these channeling courses, and when I lead the people in the second half of the class, each class, into these channeling exercises where then they channel. And what I was doing typically was muting myself and just like watching them and checking my phone to see like how much time has passed, like when should I bring them back. And then I decided, well, I do these when I do these exercises with them, I'm doing the exercise with them. I'm not just speaking it, but I'm like going through the same steps that they are. So why don't I just mute myself and then do my own channeling while they're channeling? And so I started doing that, and that's how I started channeling this new collective I'm bringing through called Thymus, the Collective of Ascended Masters.
Okay.
And so that was another one where I wasn't trying to find a new or a replacement for the Arcturians, which they're not. Like the Arcturians will still be a part
Yeah.
of everything we do, but they came very unexpectedly like that. And
Yeah.
then I also last time I channeled the quark consciousness, which a quark is like a subatomic particle.
Oh,
And another time I channeled the ancient ones who are the ETs who seeded planet Earth and like made it what it is today with like all the animal, plant, and human life forms, and everything. So
incredible.
tapping into all these different beings and collectives lately.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
I
no,
think like I didn't start until 3 years though. Like maybe you're at 3 years soon, right?
yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
you'll start branching out.
maybe. Um, I like to keep things simple, so I don't know. I don't know, I'm just like, I'm good. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly you don't have to. Like for me, the first one was also kind of unintentional because I would do these hikes and I still love to hike in nature, and I'd be on this hike and I'd reach a spot on the hike and I'd go, "Oh, this is where the fairies are." And I would take off my
Yes.
sandals and I'd walk barefoot really softly and slowly through the fairy realm, and then put my sandals back on and resume my hike. And then I had started to go like, I want to feel them, like I want to feel their presence. And then when I started doing that, I started to automatic tone for them, like
Oh,
make high pitched tones. And then there was this giant tree on this trail that I used to sit and like rest under. Sometimes I'd fall asleep under the tree and I'd meditate or just rest there. And then one day I just went and sat under that tree and I channeled Ophelia the fairy for the first time. And then
nice.
like it was over a year later that somebody asked me if in like uh like channeling exchange with them, like I said, I know you want to work on your channeling and I want to kind of like stretch mine, so we'll get together and we'll channel for each other. And she said, oh, I want you to channel a fairy for me. And so Ophelia was like right there, and that's how that second one came about
That's
after the
awesome.
creators, which were the first ones.
Yeah, there's a forest near my house that I definitely know or sense is like fairyland. Yeah. And it's interesting the energy shift that happens, that you just know. You just
Yeah,
know. It's really cool. I mean, I've never channeled them or seen them, but I can feel them.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen, by the way, have you ever experienced seeing the Arcturians or any of these other beings, like in any capacity?
um Other than in my mind's eye, no. Um,
Yeah.
most of what I channel is non-physicals, um, but I have channeled a collective of ETs called the Corinthians, who, when I would see them, they looked like amphibious humanoid beings. So they looked like frog people.
Okay.
Um, but
Yeah.
with my eyes open, it's funny when I had my big ET experience in the middle of the night where I was getting all these downloads and energy coming through me. I did eventually open my eyes hoping I would see them in the room with me, and I didn't. I saw nothing. So um, I kind of think like even the expectation that I might created such a opening within me that I started channeling that energy again, like with the same intensity as when it had started, which was pretty intense.
Mm, yeah.
What about you?
Um, no, not the only time where I have seen at least the way they presented themselves in like a physical form was through hypnosis. Um, which is where they also well, and the whole reason I even did the hypnosis was because I got a message that they wanted to gift me something. They wanted to give me a gift, and they said, "We would recommend that you do this through finding a healing hypnotist." And
Yeah.
so I did, and we went in specifically for the gift. I said, I don't know if this is going to sound crazy to you, but I channel the Arcturians, and they said they want to gift me something. And they said to find a hypnotist. So here we are. And she went with it. And so I did sort of see like first like lights just all around me, little like lights that they were happy I was there. It felt like joy and happiness, and so they were just like lights all around me. And then it presented as two beings, and they presented me with my gift by it was a symbol, and they presented it by like a gold light that would it's like light language, this
Huh.
symbol, and little by little they just presented the symbol to me, and they told me that this symbol represents me, all that I've been and will be and ever have been. So it was really interesting. Um, 'Cause I
Yeah.
didn't know what my gift was going to be, and
Uh-huh.
it was so cool.
That's
So
cool. Yeah.
yeah, I
I
wanted
used to
to
do
get
that with
into a necklace,
students.
but Haven't
Yeah.
haven't I haven't found anyone who can do it, so
Oh, oh yeah. Oh
yeah.
yeah, that would be great. I used to lead my all my channeling students through an exercise like that. We're very like intuitively, that was what I led them to was walk down a hallway, walk down a spiral staircase, and go to a happy place, and then meet somebody or some beings, and they're going to give you a gift. And
Oh,
so I
nice.
yeah, I just came up with that same thing even though I've never been hypnotized. I mean, I in a therapist's office, that's where I got the idea of like walking down the stairs, I think, and but I think I came up with
Yeah.
the gift part, and it'd always be interesting to hear from people like, "What did you get? Like, what did you receive?"
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any more questions?
Oh, let's see.
Ooh, I have one
Okay.
because this is kinda new for me. Um, I've gotten on my own channel, I think my first negative comment
Oh, really? On your YouTube?
on my YouTube.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
and I was just wondering how y and if well, if you've received any and how you, I guess, deal with that.
Woo. I used to get an email notification from YouTube for every comment on every video. And early on, I wasn't making that many videos. I was pretty shy too. Like I was very much like not sure of this. Like I'd only do it for other people like in session or in a group event, but never just like would do a freestyle channeling where it's like what I do now basically, where it's just like I'm going to see what they have to say and then
Yeah.
just channel. I never would do that for like the first couple of years. And but occasionally I would post a video, and there was a guy at one point and he was starting this you not he was starting a website, and the idea behind the website was to get all these channelers together and then have us channel answers to questions and then post those videos. I forget what it was called. I think it was called something TV. And um so they posed some questions and I answered them and made the video, and I think I was able to upload the video on my YouTube as well. And I got so many negative comments. Like There was another one I did, and this one I think was a spontaneous one that I just did. Like I just was like, okay, I'm gonna channel and I'm gonna video me and I'm gonna upload it to YouTube. And I didn't know what it was gonna be about, but
Yeah.
it said it was around 2012, around the fall of 2012. So it was there was an upcoming presidential election. It was for Barack Obama, his second term when he won the second time. And there was something in the channeling about the election, right?
Mm.
And then there was also like a hurricane or something that had happened. So all of that's in the title of the video. So what happens when you do that is like when you have some broad thing in the title of the YouTube video, like election, then you get people who wouldn't normally be seeking out channeling, but
True.
who would be just like wanting to see what people are saying about the election on YouTube or whatever, and the hurricane or whatever. So I think I got people who didn't know what channeling was, who definitely didn't know who I was, and so that video for a long time had when they used to show you how many thumbs down you had, it had way more thumbs down than thumbs up. That video, even though it was like a lot of views, because again, it was reaching a broader audience with the topic, and some of the comments were actually threats.
Oh no.
Like, "I'm gonna find you and I'm gonna hurt you," and that sort of stuff, because some people think that what I'm doing is, like, I'm trying to, I'm a fraud, that sort of thing, like, I'm just doing this to, like, fool people, and, which of course, like the emotional impact of that was enormous on me. And I eventually was told by another channel or someone who's been doing it a lot longer than me, you need to stop reading the comments, like period.
Mm.
Just stop reading them. And I did. Now, once I started making videos, like it was 2019, where I made videos consistently on YouTube every day for a while and post them, post them, post them. And then it's like it's more your people are watching the videos, like people who know you, who are interested in channeling or interested in Arcturians or something. So the comments are mostly positive,
Yeah.
like vast majority of them now are positive. But I don't read every comment. I don't have time. I don't really feel like I need to either, but like it
Yeah.
seems like it would be I guess it would be nice to interact with the audience in that way, to always respond to comments, but I have so many things I have to do like in a course of a day that
Yeah.
just to add like one more thing just seems like I couldn't possibly do it. But what I found is like because now I have a certain amount of positivity that has come my way from my channel. Like people telling me, "Oh, your channeling saved my life. It's this, it's that." That like the negative comments, it's easier now to just like laugh them off,
Yeah.
you know? Like, and also know like that person is really coming from a hurt place, like that person is hurting inside, and that's why, because like I'll never leave a negative comment on anyone's video, like I would never want to do it.
No.
It's not something I want to spread, and obviously I also am aware that if I have a negative response to something that someone else is doing, then it means I need to do some investigating inside myself about what
Right.
that's about. But
Yeah.
others don't necessarily know that, or and there's so many agendas out there too, like people who they have a certain agenda, they have these really, really solidified beliefs. And if anything you say challenges one of those beliefs, of course they're going to be lashing out at you because now you're calling into question their whole identity,
Yeah.
And so that's the way I think to look at it. But if it's hitting you really hard emotionally, I would say to you the same thing that my mentor or Harold said to me, which is stop looking at the comments.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely I'm it takes about, I don't know, a few hours, I guess, for it to be like, "Oh, okay." Because the
Mm,
immediate response is like
I
scared
know. Yeah,
and
yeah, me too.
and sad and hurt, you know? Um
And
And
are they
especially
right?
huh?
And, like, I think the reason for that is, like, there's a belief in there that goes, "Maybe they're right, maybe I do this terrible thing, and it's not good, and it's hurting people," like,
Mhm,
that is why Bashar says that's why the insult hurts, is because,
mhm,
you know, you kinda believe it too, and you think, like, maybe it's true, and that's why you feel it. Because the example Bashar gives is, like, if you're walking down the street and you're wearing red socks and somebody walks past you and they go, "I hate green socks," then you'd be like, "Okay." Like, that doesn't have anything to do with you, you're not wearing green socks, right?
mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I I I, I work really hard at being, honest and in integrity with what I do, and so, um, I guess when somebody well, it's not even so much that I believe what they're saying, it's just the I don't know what I'm trying to say. Um,
Yeah, well, so maybe you're empathic and sensitive too, and like I was saying, it's their hurt that's in that
yeah,
comment. It's that negativity that's inside of them that's coming out, and it's aimed at you, and it's also now on your video's comments, so, like, you
yeah,
absorb it a certain amount, a certain extent.
there's an impact to not just me, but to other people who read that comment, or maybe even, others who are experiencing their own gifts and maybe are too afraid to share them because of people like that. Like they see that comment, they're like, oh, well, I don't ever want, people to think I'm full of, you know, I don't know if I can say a bad word. Or or that I'm a fraud or that I'm fake or I don't all this stuff that I'm just there to help people um feel more safe to be who they are and share themselves and express themselves and hopefully that the messages also just continue to open people's hearts and love and compassion for one another. So,
I have another story to tell you about the comments thing that I think is interesting and maybe helpful.
okay.
Um, so there was a bombing in Boston a few years back, like it was over 10 years ago, I think. And it was during the marathon, the Patriots Day in Boston is a big celebration. I used to live in Boston, and I was living in California at the time, and when it happened, of course, I'm doing these daily. I was at that time doing daily messages, just not on camera, but I'd record them into my phone and I'd upload the audio onto YouTube. And the message was about the bombing in Boston, and the response that I got from somebody was like really angry, like they really disagreed with the perspective on it, which was basically like why it happened, and I actually engaged with the person in the comments and said, "Hey, I forget what I said, but it was not argumentative in response. It was more like just explaining, like, this is what I do, and like this is what is meant by this message and everything." I actually eventually had the guy like being civil and like kind in his words in the comments back, like once there was a back and forth for a while where it was more, I don't know exactly what turned him around or got him to like accept that this was also, because then the very next channeling from the creators was about like, accepting other people's perspectives, you know, like
Yeah.
how being able to, and that's something that we're having a hard time with, I think, as a collective right now, is like people say, well, we're so polarized, we're so divided, but I think people have always been very different in their views, but now there's more platforms for them. So there's more television stations where the point of it is for people to like argue about their political differences. And there's more like talk shows and podcasts and YouTube channels, and there's just social media. All of it is an opportunity for everyone to get on their soapbox and say, "This is what I believe to be true." And then, of course, if you see that and you believe the exact opposite, then you're going to argue. So, like in the past, um, maybe someone would publish a book and you would read the book and you wouldn't like what was said in the book, but you wouldn't have the opportunity to go to the keyboard and start saying like how much you dislike this person's book to their face,
Yeah.
not to their face, but to them directly in the comments. So
Yeah.
now that we have that opportunity to clash in terms of beliefs online, it's just, I think, exposed the way that the earth has always had so much polarity on it, so much diversity, and that diversity is good because variety is good. But what the harmful part of it is not being able to accept someone else's different perspective, and actually pushing against it, making fun of it, trying to eradicate it, trying to say like, well, the world will only be good when all of these people don't exist on it anymore. Who hold that particular belief or that political perspective or something. And so that's what we're when we talk about like living as a collective, as one, that's the start for all of us, I think, is to just be like, okay, it's fine that we don't all see things the same way. We're not meant to.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm okay with if you come to my channel and it doesn't resonate with you or you don't believe it or, whatever. I don't care. That's fine. But you don't have to be mean. You don't have to leave a mean
Or
comment about it. Just be like, well, I'm not going to watch that again. That's okay with me.
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And
And I think there's a way on YouTube to put like if you right click somewhere, you click on the three dots or something where you could say, I don't want to see this person's comments anymore. Like
mm,
it's basically the option is like hide this user from the channel or something, or both vice versa. I don't know how it works, but I
yeah,
think I've done it a couple of times maybe, you know.
yeah. Well, this was definitely, like I said, because I've always been scared to speak up or share myself or express myself, this was an opportunity at least um to feel like that sort of that fear again, that kind of like, oh my God, you know, maybe I should hide. Uh but then kind of pull myself out of that and love myself and be compassionate with myself and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
again just get centered with who I am and being okay with that and loving who I am and loving sharing that with people, you know.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
also often look at all of that as like, well, then I ask myself the question of like, well, am I being too hard on myself? And I know the answer is yes. Like, I know that I'm very hard on myself and perfectionistic and like, especially, something else I heard you say to Alex in your interview was like, sometimes you don't get the fullness of the message that you channel until you're going back and listening to it and transcribing it. That happened to me so many times.
Yeah.
Um, in the early days of me channeling and then transcribing and putting it out there where it would be like I would think, oh, this wasn't that great, but I don't want to do another one either. Like I don't feel like I have it in me to do another one, and so I'll just post it anyway. And then the transcribing of it, you start realizing, oh, it is actually pretty good. And then you post it, and like all the comments are really positive and it's getting a lot of likes on YouTube, on Facebook or something. And then you come to realize, like, oh, that message wasn't for me. Like,
Right.
that's not who it was for anyway, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that happens a lot for me too. At least right now, of being like, that transmission was okay. And then when I write it down, I get the depth of it, or I get the more layered aspects of it, or how simply and beautifully they articulated something that, well, for one, for anyone who thinks that I'm fake or or making it up or acting, I am not articulate. I am not, you know what I mean? Like when I have, if I were to try and advise or give guidance on some of the things that the Arcturians bring forth or present to us, there is no way I could articulate it the way that they do. Like that's just not the way my brain works. I get nervous. I don't know how to say what I'm thinking. I have so many thoughts in my head. What do I say first? Like how do I make it all make sense? It's so deep, like, but the Arcturians are able to articulate stuff so simply, like really simple. It's not
But I
like,
also think it's you, but you in an altered state. Because even though you and I are not trans channelers, we still are altering our normal state of consciousness into something else
yeah,
that also makes us better public speakers, because like we said before, we are still the ones who have to come up with the words for the energy, but it is easier when your eyes are closed, when you've like gotten yourself into that state and you feel the energy too when you channel, right? Like you
yeah,
feel there's a difference, there's a presence there within you that's not normally there.
yeah,
That's what holds my arms up, and makes my hands do things, that same energy is doing all of that.
right.
That's like helping
It's your cat.
with, yeah.
I'm a big cat lover.
That sounds
Sorry,
maybe she'll climb up.
sorry to
No,
interrupt.
I think no, you're she's like a part of so many of my videos too.
Oh,
She's
cool.
my
Good.
I think of her as like my R2D2, like Luke Skywalker, he would always have R2D2 with him, like he'd go to see Yoda, he brought R2D2. Um,
Yeah,
because she's like, now that she's an indoor cat, because we live in Australia and there's like a million things out there that can kill them, like I just keep them inside, the cats, and
yeah,
so she's with me like all day, sitting while I'm channeling, like I can just pet her and it's so
sweet.
nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
mine's right there. You can't see him, but he's right there. Cubby cat, Cubby. Yeah. Um, well, awesome. I don't know.
Are you still doing like mostly the energy work and stuff? The
Yes,
acupuncture?
most of my work is acupuncture, and then energy work. And the Akashic records are part time right now. I might add in a couple more sessions to my schedule, but that's a little part time. The Arcturians are just something I do on the weekend for for YouTube.
Oh, you do it once a week?
Yeah, just once a week
Yeah,
for
okay.
now.
Channel for yourself ever?
Occasionally,
Yeah,
not very much.
and
Uh,
it's always very encouraging, right?
yeah, of course. Yes.
It's always like, "You're doing great." Like, whenever I channel for myself, that's what they're telling me.
Yeah, it's always very loving and encouraging. Kind
Yeah.
of puts me back into like, okay, doing all right. I'm okay. It's all right.
And
Uh,
what about this healing center you wanna start in New Mexico? What's going on with that?
well, it's been very slow moving. Right now, we do a lot of work in Nashville without an actual physical location, but we do sound healing in the public school system for children, for elementary school children. We do
Oh,
sound healing, a monthly sound healing and Reiki and meditation. once a month for the community. And we're looking into doing some more stuff um, with some other focus groups.
Mm.
We like to focus on working with communities that may not be or may not have access to this type of healing. And I do want to start adding some acupuncture into that, not just the sound healing. Um, but the land in New Mexico is going to eventually be a retreat center
Mm.
where hopefully the plan is to provide funded retreats and sponsorships for, again,
Oh,
people who normally wouldn't be able to go on a retreat for a weekend, who don't have that kind of money or don't have a community, or um, they just don't have access to that type of thing. So also, trying to be aware of like childcare, and maybe we have childcare there so they can still enjoy their retreat and get services or meditation or sound healing, um, transportation, that kind of thing. So that's a we've come across some obstacles on the land there, and with the county and people
oh,
there, but it is gaining some traction, and we are um, hopefully we'll get some more support, not just through funding, but also actual support from the people who are there who can help us start actually constructing things on the land.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Well,
I would say that's probably still about 2 or 3 years down the line that that will be completed.
yeah, yeah. Wow. But what a great vision that
Yeah.
you have. Yeah. Love that.
Yes.
Mm.
Well, what do you think? Should we wrap things up or?
Yeah, I have a client session too in like 18 minutes.
Oh
So
my gosh, that's cutting it close. Okay. Ooh,
but the time
I
flew
can't do
by.
anything before a client session, before I have to be like, no TV, drink plenty of water, like meditate. Like I'm gonna, yeah, get centered.
Yeah.
But you've been doing this longer.
13 years almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a very young veteran.
Yeah, totally. Well, thank you so much for meeting with
Amazing.
me and just having this conversation with me. I enjoyed it, and I look forward to meeting you in person one day, for
I
sure.
look forward to that too. Yeah.
Well, I guess we say goodbye, I guess.
Bye
Yeah.
for now.
Okay, bye. Okay.